This section heading is called SSH. So within our Hadoop cluster, our daemons can communicate via SSH. So we'll see this when we actually execute some startup scripts that come with our Hadoop installation that use SSH. So SSH is a client-server protocol, and what we want to do within this section is we want to ensure that both the client and server component are actually installed. We also want to take a look at making SSH essentially non-interactive. In this section right here, we're just going to take care of one part of that, and that is to add the SSH server's public key to the known host file. That way there, once it's inside of that file, we no longer have to confirm the hash of the public key. So now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check to see if the SSH client component is installed by essentially executing the SSH command without actually completing its syntax. So if we do this, we're going to know that the SSH client is installed by the way that the system actually provides help. So it understands the command because it's installed, and it says, you know what, you didn't complete the command syntax, and here are ways that you can essentially, complete it. So now that we know that the SSH client component is installed, now we're going to use the SSH command once again to SSH to localhost. Now the reason that we're getting this message right here is because the SSH server component is not installed on this host by default. So what we're going to do now is we're going to install it. So we're going to install it from the local repository on this system, and then the package is OpenSSH-server. So now once this installs, the next thing that we're going to do here, now that we have both components in place, the client and the server component, is we're going to look to make essentially SSH non-interactive, at least one component of it anyways. So in this section right here, we're going to ensure that we don't get prompted in the future for essentially verifying the identity of the servers we're connecting to. And what I mean by that is host key checking. So if we have all of the SSH servers that we're going to connect to, if we have their public key inside of the known host file, then this is going to take care of that, essentially that problem that we would have to, confirm things when we're running these scripts inside of Hadoop. All right, so first things first, we're going to now SSH once again to localhost, and the reason we're going to do this time is because we want to actually get the SSH server's public key, and we want to store it inside the known host file. So here's our host key checking. Once we verify the identity of the SSH server's, essentially the hash of the public key of the SSH server, then it's going to be stored within that known host file. And then this only going to happen once. So basically, if that key is within that file every other time subsequently after this first time, then we won't be, essentially prompted to verify its identity because we already did once and it's stored within that file. So now that we established an SSH session, we're just going to terminate the session, and now we're going to need to do this for one more host. So your secondary name node is going to come up as quad zeros. So I want you to think of quad zeros as kind of like in networking, the way that we think of it is it means kind of like everything, or kind of like fill it in. So it could mean, for example, it's listening on all available interfaces on the system or something like that. But in any event, what we're going to do here is to ensure that we don't get prompted to verify the identity of this host. So this host being the IP, we're going to add this SSH server's public key in there as well. So now if we cat the file, what we're going to find in here, so if we cat.ssh and then known hosts, you're going to find both of those SSH servers public key. So you're going to see up in here, these are the different host names. So one, we had an IP address, that's this one down here, and then up here we had essentially local hosts. So these are hashes of each of those.